What's up guys, welcome to episode number 4. So we've got a bunch of things to do on the car. In this episode we're going to do the idle air control valve.
We're going to put in the interior.
We're going to fix up the ignition barrel as well. We're going to throw the new replacement ignition barrel in there so that's all sorted.
I'm going to get some new tyres.
Some fresh tyres as well. The last thing we're going to do is a special little test on the motor. We're going to do a smoke test. We've got a little contraption that we've made up which is a little bit hilarious, I'll be honest, but we're going to test if we've got any vacuum leaks in the motor as well. And also we're going to swap out the door. So we've got our door delivered. We're going to throw a brand new to us door straight onto the car as well. Everything's getting ready for that final VIN check so we can get this thing registered.
Let's jump into it.
All right, back at it again. We are going to try and just do the idle air control valve today. Quick little job on a car, obviously. The idle air control valve is just back there, that little black. It's got 4 bolts and it's got coolant in, coolant out. Then it's got a nice big thick hose that goes over the rocker cover and gets its idle air from in front of the throttle body. So you got throttle body here. So when that closes, the car needs to come onto idle. So this air bypasses along the back there and then into that valve and then into the intake manifold. So we want to use something to clean it that doesn't leave a residue in there. We want to be nice and delicate with it. It's got a little valve that goes in and out. We've got a fresh, genuine Nissan gasket. We've got some brake parts cleaner. So if I come back here, try and make it a little bit easier. I've got the bleed nipple out at the moment because I was bleeding that coolant in. We've got a little screw on the side there. We'll get this hose out the way, get those 4 bolts undone. Let's get stuck into it and see how we go. All right, we've got everything unplugged. We got those hoses off as well. Luckily we didn't spill much coolant, which is great. Got that idle air control. So you can see a whole heap of gunk build up in there, which is a good sign. Hopefully I can make a good difference cleaning that out. And I don't know if the camera's gonna get in there. The gasket looks all right, to be honest, but I'm gonna chuck a fresh gasket on there just to be safe. Let's get it all up on the table. We can get right in there and clean it out. We're going to pull this actuator off here very, very carefully. There's definitely heaps of oil in there, and that screw is absolutely mangled in there, the idle screw, which is screwing all the way in at the moment. All right, let's pull it apart. We are good. So we're going to be real careful with this because I think it's got springs and everything in there as well from what I've seen. So I've not cleaned one of these before, it's my first time. No better way to learn than by doing it. Alright, so we've got a spring in there, we've got a valve by the look of it. Keep them in order. And then in here, we've got something as well. Little valve. That spring goes in there, pushes up against that. All right, so I got a good idea of how it sets out. So a little valve, I'm gonna lay everything out in order. Valve, spring, plunger. It's a huge difference straight away. Oh, heaps of crud in there. I'm happy enough to chuck that back together. I don't know whether we put any lube in there. I think my hands are covering what I'm doing, but should be a lot better, hopefully. The only other thing it could be, if it is still got a sticky idle, is the TPS. We just got to check the voltage on a TPS and make sure we've got 0.5 of a volt. One dodgy screw on there. There's always one dodgy screw. But that's pretty clean in there now. Everything else looks pretty good. I might just give them a bit of a sandpaper before we chuck them back on. And I'll chuck that back on with the new gasket. You can see it all the way through in there, which is really good. Giving them a light sand on the outside. I don't want to sand them too much in case I damage them beyond use, but apart from that little dodgy screw, we are all back together. I don't want to risk using that same gasket. If we've come this far, I've got a spare gasket anyway, so we might as well chuck a new one on. Put that hose back on, we'll get a fresh gasket on there. Let's do the other gasket surface and get it bolted back on. All right, so this is the back of the manifold. I'm just trying to give you a good idea of, we've got a big hole here where the all the air goes in and out, or in, but this is our gasket here. I mean, it does look really, really good. It doesn't look like it's got any breaks in it or anything, but I'm gonna pull that off for the sake of having a new one, and we'll use a razor blade to clean that surface. And we'll chuck the freshie on. Bit hard to get the camera in there, but All pretty clean. I'm actually going to use a little bit of Permatex on there, just a little dab, not too much. What we will do is open up this gasket and get that right. Third time lucky, beautiful. That looks pretty good. We'll just give some light Permatex on there and we'll chuck that back on. Idle air control valve is all back together and on. Motor's back together, so we'll continue bleeding that coolant. Fill the coolant right up to the top on the radiator. We've got the front of the nose of the car up as well, so that's the highest point. We've got the 2 bleed nipples out, and we're going to start the car with the cap on and the radiator full, and hopefully we'll push some more air out and we'll start getting some coolant out of those bleed nipples. So idle air control valve back here, all back together. Bleed nipple, and the radiator's full. Let's give it a start, Ollie. Unfortunately, I reckon we've got a bad idle air control valve. I don't know if me cleaning it out, that little plunger might have caused like it to be more sticky, but it's definitely not better than before, that's for sure. Bummer. So I might need to hunt around for an idle air control valve and see if we can get that one working on here. All right, we've got plenty of other stuff we can do in the meantime, so we'll get on to some other things. We'll probably put all this interior back in, give the interior a little bit more of a scrub, and then we'll get this thing down on the ground. One thing we do need to do, which is lingering, and I really don't want to deal with it, but obviously you've seen our ignition barrel already. I've got a replacement barrel, so I'm going to pull this off before we put any of the interior back in. We've still got tons of room in there. The only issue that we've got is buying the ignition barrel from a wrecker in Victoria. Unfortunately, they absolutely mangled. I don't know if you can see that, but so there's a thread here and there's meant to be a thread here too, but they've absolutely mangled that thread and drilled it out even bigger than the original thread. So you can see that thread here. I'm not going to be able to focus on that, but yeah, the thread on that on the right hand side is okay. Thread on the left is absolutely not okay. And this is a bit that attaches, so that's our ignition barrel. That attaches to your steering column, and then all your wiring attaches to the back of that. This is the top clip. Somehow we're going to have to make that work. Which brings me to this stuff here. Hopefully we've got a center punch to get the security bolts off the old one. So when they attach it in the factory, they've got head snapping bolts on there, so security bolts. So once you do them out to torque, the head snaps off them and they've got a clean surface, so you can't undo them easily. So we've got a nice little center punch. The other thing is this thing. So we've got a thread repair kit. I've never used one of these before, so it's going to be my first time. Again, no better way to learn than to do it yourself, hey? So I'm really hoping, even if I need to chop the edge, see how it's got a little deep recess in there? If I need to put a bigger headed bolt in there, I can either sit it at the top here with a washer, but one of them's going to go in fine, obviously, but yeah, the other one's going to need a helicoil. Just depends on what size helicoil, but maybe we'll get stuck into that now and see if we can get that sorted out. I'm going to start with getting the old one off the car. It's a little bit dark in here, but we'll get it done. So we've got the steering column here, which is the back of where the steering lock is. I think there's about 4 bolts on the bottom. We'll just pull them out. With all of those out, that bottom bit comes on. And we've got access to our ignition barrel. So it's the back of the wiring for the ignition barrel. We'll plug that. Here's a good look at what we're dealing with. So there are our security bolts on top, if it's going to focus on them. And then that is obviously our steering column. And then this is our mangled ignition barrel. So we're going to try and get our center punch in there and see if we can start those bolts spinning. Just going to hammer them on a bit of an angle and see if we can get them to turn. Hopefully we can get this one off fairly straightforward, and then we can start looking at our replacement one and trying to drill and tap something new into that.
One eternity later.
Good news. See if I can get this in here. So I've given that a hammer. You can see my hole in there, just hammering that on an angle, and it's enough to get that spinning. And then this one should be fairly straightforward once we get this one out as well. I wish the other guy did that with the other one. Oh well. So these are the security bolts. If I'm just going to focus on them, but you can see they have, in that center bit there, they have a bit that just snaps off when they get done up. Nice thick thread. But yeah, so we'll try and get this other one out. Both bolts came out relatively simple. The second one was a little bit of a pain in the bum, but definitely not worth drilling a hole out in the ignition barrel though. So you can get a brand new ignition barrel with no other door keys for about 300 bucks. And this one was 300 bucks, but it came with all the door locks. So I thought it was a better option. Look at that. Before he mangled it, unfortunately. But I'm going to try and stick with it. He ended up giving it to me for about 150 bucks. All right, so straight off the bat, the good news is, I guess, they look the same. Let's set these aside for now. So this is just a Tool Pro from Super Cheap. Nothing special. I really didn't want to spend a heap of money on something that I didn't really feel like I'd ever use again. So 131 piece. Hopefully it's got some instructions on how to use it as well, because I've got a brief idea, but thinking we're gonna have to go something like 8mm or 8.3 drill, so 8mm hole. Probably gonna have to drill straight down in there. Tap a thread. I mean, I could almost, yeah, drill down in there, tap a thread, drop one of these in, and then we should be able to use an 8mm bolt again, which, I don't know, that looks like an 8mm bolt to me. I don't know what he's done with this hole. I reckon there's still a bit of bolt in there as well, but we can always go bigger. We've got a bit of meat here, so yeah, we can always go bigger. We'll see how we go. All right, quick disclaimer. I have no idea what I'm doing. Never done it before. Gonna do my best to try and get it done first time, but I'm not gonna hold my breath. We're gonna drill that down. We're gonna use those threads. We've got an Allen key to drive a new tap down there. We're gonna do our best to drill down straight down into it. Okay, I've done my best to drill a little hole through there. It's not good. I just had to hold it with my feet, but I'm not sure if that taps. I mean, the tap feels like it's going to go in there. Let's try and see if we can get that tap in. We have got a helicoil in there. I don't know if that's going to focus much, but we've got a helicoil in there and it screws in and out, which is all good. So we are good to put this back in. We're going to try and lock this up onto the ignition, onto the steering lock again. We've got some new bolts. They're all good lengths, and we'll see if we can piece this back together and get it all back to how it was before. So, ignition barrel done. It's a little bit better. I reckon I am waiting on one of those little ring lights that goes around the ignition barrel there. That one's a little bit damaged. I ordered one when I ordered the door and the center console. So, all right, I reckon I'm gonna put those seatbelt buckles back in the back. I'm gonna put the center console in. Then I might go grab Ollie and get him to help me put these seats back in. the interior is back in except the boot, so we'll probably chuck that boot lining in today, I reckon. What we're going to do is we've got a bit of an idle issue at the moment. So we've got an issue with the motor idling with nothing on it, so just sitting there like it is now. If we start it up, it'll idle at like 3,000 RPM. Yeah. It's idling really high. So we need to figure out what's causing that and how to fix it, which is so far been an absolute pain in the ass. So we're going through some different things at the moment. The weird thing is, so I believe it's the idle control valve. I have cleaned and removed and refit the idle control valve, how many times? Like 5 times, yeah. No difference, unfortunately. It's just, yeah, it's not doing what it's meant to be doing. And the weird thing is, I'll show you in just a sec, but the main hose, like that real big thick hose that comes off the intake tube before the throttle and goes to the idle control valve, if I block that off, the car idles fine. If I let that go, the car idles up no matter what I do. I've set the TPS voltage to 0.5 volts. I've done so much research and gone through everything, and I really can't figure it out. Everything at the moment is pointing to a faulty idle control valve, which sucks because they're really hard to find and they're super expensive as well. So at the moment I've got it clamped off, that hose clamped off, and it idles fine. For rego, if we have everything else done for rego next week, hopefully, fingers crossed, I'm going to just block off that hose internally just to get the ID inspection, and then we'll come back and go to town on it and figure out why it's not idling. We haven't even driven the car yet. No. So we need to drive the car and make sure it actually drives and all the wheels don't fall off as soon as we step out the driveway. So we're going to go for a quick little spin around the racetrack in Mexico just to make sure it drives and rolls and does all the things it needs to do. Make sure it doesn't stall with that idle control valve switched. Blocked off. And then we're going to come back and we're going to get stuck into that boot trim, the door, and we're going to jack the car up and get the wheels off because we've got some brand new tires getting fitted to these rims, and then we can put it back on the ground. And then it's just the last little bits and pieces. Oh, the other thing. So we've got some little presents inside the door as well that we got from the same seller or the same wrecker in Victoria. Great guy to deal with, really nice as well. I'll put his details down below to Sylvia Parts. He's got the center console lid and also the fuel flap lid. So both of those things can come out of there. Hopefully he's wrapped them up in bubble wrap nicely. Let's warm the car up. Let's go for a quick spin around this Mexico racetrack and come back and get stuck into it. Little secret, we're not going to be able to hear the blow-off valve or anything, which is what Ollie's been waiting for. I'm going to secretly take the top of the airbox off so that we can hear that a little bit more, and I know that'll put a big smile on his face. Pretty much up to temp, not far off. First drive in the car, man. Are you a little bit nervous? Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't fall apart. Alright. Let's do it. The brakes feel a little bit squeaky, so we're gonna need to go through and check the brakes as well. It's actually pretty stiff. So I think this has got Bilsteins in it, which are like height adjustable with the clip. So weird, man. That's sick. Yeah, the brakes are definitely dragging a little bit. Oh. Nothing sus. So we've also got Tiptronic as well. So second. Oh, that's so sick. You need to suss out those brakes. I'm surprised how stiff it is, like. That's crazy, dude. It actually drives pretty nice. That was really cool. For a first drive, that's awesome. So I'll show you what I mean about the idle. It's really bugging me at the moment. Whoa. So at the moment, this hose that goes around the back of the car to back of the manifold to the idle control valve, I've just got it clamped off for now. But if I unclamp it, not good, hey man. It keeps trying to catch the idle and lift it up and down. So I really think that it's the idle control valve. I don't know if you can hear me or not. I'll turn that off. But yeah, I really feel like it's the idle control valve, which is back here. And I've had that off. New gasket, cleaned out, meticulously cleaned out, yeah, like 5 times now, and it's just not made a difference, unfortunately. So I don't know what to do. I'm trying to track another one down. They're super expensive, which is heaps annoying. It's always something expensive that's the problem, isn't it? So we'll leave that for now because I do have a way around it just by blocking off that hose. And I can block it off internally just to get it through the VIN check if we need to, if I can't figure it out between now and then. Now, another thing that I noticed as well, so the front cover was a little bit mangled. I don't know if you remember me saying that in the last video. What I noticed is that back here, I don't know if you can see that, but it's actually like fully disformed. Like it's not even the right shape, which is weird. So I've ordered a brand new one of those and also a spare wheel bolt. So the spare wheel that sits in the boot, you have to have a spare wheel obviously. The bolt, the genuine Nissan bolt that holds that down, I've ordered a brand new one of them. They were like 15 bucks, brand new, genuine. And I think these front covers, brand new, genuine Nissan, 100 bucks. Fresh, brand new. So I think that's the way to go. It'll look better than getting another secondhand one, which is probably gonna be the same thing as that. All right, should we do the door, man? Yeah. You keen to do the door? Yeah. There was an infinite amount of glass in that door that was, I think I rotated it like 100 times. And the glass just kept coming out forever. So I think we've got 99.999% of the glass out of the door. It's, I don't know how I feel about the door. Like I've pulled a million of these apart before. Putting them back together is probably not my strong point. So I'll be all good pulling it apart. We'll get all the stuff out of the other door and we're gonna transfer as much as we can into the shell of this door. I'm really happy that he's left things like this loom and this handle and some of the rods, because they would be an absolute pain in the ass to do from scratch or just transferring from one door to the other. So for those of you that might not have watched our original video, this is what we're trying to fix. So we've got this down here and then we've got this here. So they've mangled the lock when they tried to steal the car, and then they smashed the actual hole in the metal part of the door there. And I don't feel like that would ever really panel beat that great. So we'll swap the door over. There's heaps of chips and stuff on it anyway. We'll clean this door up, get it as good as possible, and hopefully it matches up and bolts on nicely. All right, so in the car, we've got 2 hinges. We're gonna get the door off, pretty simple, I think. The 2 hinges, we've got top and bottom. They've each got 2 12mm nuts on each hinge. So we're gonna undo them straight off the door. The door check latch is a 10mm, and then if you can see in the back here, just in there, there's a wiring loom that joins all the electrics in the door to the car, and that's a little 10mm holding that on as well. So we'll go ahead and pull them off and we'll chuck this door up on the table. Alright, we're back. So next day, we worked late into the night last night. We ran out of daylight, so we couldn't keep filming, unfortunately. But we did get the door back on. You can see the doors all mounted up. I got to do some aligning because we're just touching up here. So I'll get to the hinges on there and just adjust the door so it fits up a little bit nicer. I was a little bit disappointed about how much was missing off the door. So all the rubber seals and stuff that when removed by the wrecker, it probably would have broken and they can't even use it anyway. So knowing what I know now, I probably would have asked to leave a lot of the stuff on there and then I wouldn't have to worry about breaking seals or anything. This has got the factory delivered weather shields on there, but I've seen aftermarket weather shields. Like I've had them on other cars before and I've seen them for the 34, but everyone seems to be sold out. So I'm gonna see if I can track some aftermarket ones down there, like a dark black tinted weather shield. These ones are sort of like, they're a bit faded looking, although every 34 four-door that I've seen with these looks faded as well. So I've got the weather shield on the old door over there, so I'll transfer that onto the new door. I need to put the mirror on still as well, and classic me, everything I do, there seems to be one thing that I need to fix after I finish doing it. So the steering column and ignition barrel, there's one plug that I need to plug in for the windscreen wipers properly. It mustn't be plugged in properly. So I need to do that, pull that apart and just plug that plug in again. The door, the glass is just on the outside lip of one of the guides. So it's in the guide and then there's like a rubber guide inside the metal guide, but I'm just on the outside of one of the rubber lips. So I've just got to take the door trim off and adjust that glass back into the runner or the guide, and then that's all working good. Apart from that, everything else went good through the door. This is the old door here. Frustratingly, these rubbers, as you would expect, they're old. Tried to pop them out really carefully. I did spray a little bit of CRC in there, but they both broke the little nipples off that hold them in. So I'm going to need to try and track some down. The loom was different. I tried to use my original door latch, but it definitely does not come apart very easily. This one is a little bit different color. We've got the new lock-in. You'll notice that all the wheels are off the car. We've got the car floating at the moment, which is a little bit sketchy, but it's all sitting up on the jack stands. We're about to go get some tires from Scott's Tires, just some cheapies to get us through the VIN check, so we can have them on brand new tires. It looks all standard and nice and neat and safe. And then after we've done that VIN check, hopefully next week, we can come and put some aftermarket rims on. So I've got the rims. I'll show you in the next episode, guys, exactly which rims I'm going to get. Just for now, they're going to be big offset, big dish. They're not going to be Jap ones just yet, but they're going to be a Jap looking one. So I'm not overly excited about that side of things, but I really like the look of the wheel, and I've been hunting on Facebook Marketplace trying to find rims, and people either want $5,000–6,000 for a set of what I want, or they're just the wrong offset. So I'm going to get these Japanese looking rims that are in big offset, big dish for now, so we can get this car looking a little bit nicer. And then I'm going to keep my eye out for a decent set of JDM wheels that we can swap over straight away. These other wheels they're pretty cheap. They're like $300, 369, 12 plus tires, probably $1,500 to $1,800 for a set of wheels and tires that are going to look pretty good to start off with, just to carry us through until we get some JDM rims. We're going to need to roll these guards as well, so I've got a guard roller on its way to us. More on that later though, so let's go get these tires. Spokes and real carefully lift it up. You got to put it on the wheel, so you got to push it on. do up, and you got to hold it because when you turn it, it's going to want to like spin. So you got to put it on it and hold it like firm and straight on it. So push the bottom on. Push the bottom on. Okay.
It's like really heavy.
There you go. All right, that's all the jobs done, pretty much. All the little ones that I had. So we've fixed the door. The window still isn't as smooth as I'd like it, but we'll get to that afterwards. It's good enough for trying to get a vehicle inspection. The ignition barrel is all sorted. There was one plug that I didn't realize where it went, and I saw a video the other day that showed me exactly where it went. I'm like, I should have put it there. So that's easy enough to fix. The guys at Scott's Tires are really, really good to deal with. They're super fast, same day. Dropped them off in the morning, picked them up in the afternoon. They were cheap. I mean, they're only, I don't even know what they are. Some Chinese name probably, but they're only cheapy tires, and I think they were like $100 fitted for each. So $400 for tires. We've got them as backups if we ever need them. Right now, I reckon I'm going to put the center console in. We've got a new center console lid. It's here. Haven't unwrapped it yet. Hopefully it's in good condition. He promised me they were in good condition, so I ended up having to buy the whole center console for $150, which I think I told you in episode 2 maybe. And I just got him to take the lid off, and the hinges hopefully are all in good condition in there, and we can bolt that into ours. I don't know if you guys can see, it's a bit dark in here, but the hinges just snapped off on the plastic. Pretty easy to do. I think it's pretty common. So we're going to try and just unscrew that and put the new one on. Should be pretty straightforward. Yeah, it's definitely just snapped off along the plastic. So fingers crossed that these little hinges go in okay. I think they're like stoppers. I don't want to break this hinge either. Oh, that hinge is already broken, bro. Oh well, that's what you get when you buy stuff from a wrecker, I guess. Stuff's like 20 years old. He did say to me it was in good condition, but it's hard when you mess with something that's been in that one position for its whole life. But that hinge is broken all the way across there. It's like half on. Hopefully we don't waste too much more money like that. We've got a center console lid though. Looking good, bit more complete, nice leather handbrake boot. The other thing I'm going to do is something tricky to do with the idle problem that we're having. So I haven't figured out exactly what's causing that weird idle. It's a really high idle until we block that hose off, and then the idle comes back down to normal. I'm actually going to do a smoke test. Those of you that don't know what a smoke test is, basically we're going to create a safe smoke that we can blow into the engine. Basically the smoke will fill everywhere that the air normally goes inside the engine. So the intake manifold, all the cooler piping, pretty much just everything. And we're going to block off the air filter. And if there's any leaks or vacuum hoses or split pipes or anything like that, then the smoke will come out of there and you'll be able to see it straight away. So let's hypothetically say this little joint in here has a leak. We're going to be creating this little smoke machine. We'll probably pull a vacuum hose off like here. The smoke machine will blow smoke in here. We'll have the throttle open, and then the smoke will fill up the whole intake manifold and all this piping, and the smoke will escape from here if that's a leak. I have a feeling it kind of looks like there's a little bit of a crack there, but we'll investigate that more. There's some other dodgy hoses like this here. There's probably a ton of hoses underneath as well that I can't see. So the smoke machine is something that I saw online. I've seen a few videos. It looks pretty dodgy, I'm not gonna lie, but it's something that's pretty easy to make. It's pretty cheap as well, and I don't have access to a legitimate smoke machine, so this one will definitely have to do. It's basically, I'll go through the steps with you when I'm making it, but it's basically a glass jar with a metal lid, some baby oil soaked rags, and a soldering iron, and then a bike pump. As bad as that sounds, it'll make more sense when I'm putting it on the car. I'll show you in a sec. All of this stuff probably costs around $10, give or take, depending on if you have a soldering iron or not, but you can get them pretty cheap from a $2 shop or Bunnings or something like that. So first thing, we're going to need all this stuff. So the main thing is a glass jar with a metal lid. That's pretty important because ultimately we need a bit of depth to it. We're going to be sticking this soldering iron in and sealing it up from the top. So we want it to at least be the length of the soldering iron. So that's a glass jar. We've got a metal punch just to make the holes in the top that we need. We need this hose and a long hose as well. So this hose is going to be the appropriate size to go onto the engine. This other end of it is going to be going into the jar. This hose is going to be going on the other side, and we're going to be using the bike pump to pump air in there and blow the smoke out. Hope that makes sense so far. Baby oil, even your nightclub smoke machines use baby oil pretty much. So I think it's mineral oil or baby oil is the best thing. That's about $2 or $3 I think, or maybe $3. On a pump, now I've got this little fitting on the end of my pump that fits perfectly into that. I think it's for pumping up balls. It came with the pump, so that's going to go in there. Need a hammer for the punch. We need a soldering iron. Now obviously it's better to have a, sorry, the birds are going crazy in the background. Better to have a cheap soldering iron, but I'm going to go with this one. Hopefully I can reuse it again afterwards. And lastly, just some silicone, either some glue or silicone. I'm going to use all-purpose sealant just because I had that around the house already. Start off by making the hole for the soldering iron. Just going to gently do this in a way that you can see as well. It's effectively what we're trying to do. Silicone that in. Once we've got that into position, we get the other ones into position. Silicone it all anyway. It doesn't really matter too much. My first time doing this, so you're learning with me and I'm learning with you. So that's going to go like that. It's going to go like that. I probably should have done this over that way, to be honest, but it's all good. And then we need one more hose for the injection. Some special concoction like this. Silicone that in there. Silicone that. And that. Now that is definitely not the prettiest, but we're going to silicone the rest up from here. All we want is it to be airtight. And I'm pretty sure I'll be able to peel that silicone off. Look at that, work of art. So that is our concoction. 2 hoses, one to blow in, one for the smoke to come out. Silicone is sealing it up, so we're going to leave that to dry overnight. I'm going to soak this overnight in there, and then it's going to be really good for smoking tomorrow. And just fill that up with baby oil real quick. I'm going to put a fair bit in there because I'm probably going to need a fair bit of smoke, and that should soak it up pretty well. It might come in handy, you never know. All right, we'll come back tomorrow once this is all dried up. Good morning, next day. We've got our smoke machine that was setting overnight. So everything's all dried up and glued and sealed up. Not the prettiest thing in the world, but it's going to do the job. We've got our rag in there that's soaked up all the baby oil. I reckon we're pretty much ready to put this together. So in preparation for the engine side of things, I've got a power cord here. And the only other thing I'm going to do is block up the airbox so it can't escape out of there. And I'm also going to open the throttle or crack the throttle a little bit. Cracking the throttle, I don't know if you can see under there, but I'm just going to chuck that cable just over the top there, just for now, like that. Not sure if you can see that. All right, that'll keep the throttle open. The other throttle, this one here, will always be open until it is closed by the traction control. So now all we need is some plastic. So I'm just going to use this plastic bag, open all the clips, probably just take this out for now. That will sit back on there nicely. Put through that lid up. I'm going to go plug this in and start getting these hoses all set up. We've got our bike pump to pump air into the side. Actually, I'll just sit that over here. So this side can go onto the intake manifold. I'm just going into a little channel on the intake manifold. This does look pretty questionable, I'll be honest. So just gonna wait for that iron to heat up. We should start having some smoke. I think we need to seal off this a little bit better. know that we've got no air leaks from what we can tell with that smoke test. There is a small little oil leak under the car from the front of the motor. Obviously we've just had all that apart with new seals and everything, and I'm almost 100% sure that those seals are in correctly. So I'm a little bit puzzled as to where this oil leak could be coming from, but I'm going to run the engine without the front timing cover on. So obviously we've got the front of the motor here. We've normally got a cover that fits on here. Crank angle sensor goes in here. There's little spaces that we'll run to put the crank angle sensor in there so that it doesn't foul out or go in too deep or incorrectly. But you can see a bit of oil spray just here. These were definitely cleaned before I reassembled the front of the engine. A little bit of oil there. And the thing that hurts is that. So we've got decent oil drips, and the oil's pretty new and clear, which tells me it's definitely fresh oil. Unfortunately, I just can't see exactly where it will be coming from. It kind of looks like it's coming from the seal, the cam seal behind this one, but I just can't be sure at the moment. So I'm going to do a little bit more investigating and see what I can find out. So if you're ever going to run the cam sensor without the cover on, it's really important that you run these spacers without dropping them down the timing cover, preferably. Just to remind myself to be very careful pulling these out as well. In a perfect world it'd be cool to run without the front cover, but I'd hate for something to flick up from under the car or something bad like that and get in there with the timing belt. It's probably not ideal to have it open, that's for sure. I'm going to set that timing back to fairly neutral timing. And just for your viewing pleasure, we can see the spaces in between the crank angle sensor and the cam gear, and that obviously just keeps it spaced out enough as if the timing cover was there. Click that on. We can't click that on. Make sure we keep that, so that's going to be something we just need to keep an eye on. Make sure that cable to the crank angle sensor is out of the way. Alright, I'll give her a start. Doing my little idle trick there as well. So with oil pressure, I'm hoping I can maybe see some seepage. That's what we're trying to chase though. It does look to be on the side a little bit. Pretty sure that's oil, not power steering fluid. I'd love for it to be power steering fluid though. Let's check the power steering. Definitely got fluid in there, which is a good start. We do have a hose that goes down that slide and goes onto the back. Better hoist to make things heaps easier, but it's really hard to get under the car and get a good view of exactly, you know, what is leaking and where it's coming from or anything like that. It's gonna be a tricky one. It's almost like something when I'm in high RPM maybe and there's more oil pressure. No, we're gonna have to keep looking. That's going to be the end of this episode, guys. Thank you so much for all your support. I really appreciate all the views and comments you guys are commenting on the videos and the shorts. I think we just had like a 15,000 view short, which is unreal. From the bottom of our heart, thank you from me and Ollie. Really appreciate it, guys. We're getting so close now. Hopefully in the next video we'll be finalizing that oil leak and taking it to rego check, which I'm absolutely nervous about. So fingers crossed, guys. We've pretty much covered everything now. We're just down to the nitty and gritty things, just the final things. If the front of that motor has to come back off just to fix an oil seal, I'll do it. It doesn't matter. We're pretty much done. We're pretty much done with the rego side of things. I can't wait to get some plates on this. We've got a really cool plate. Well, most people probably won't think it's that cool. I think it's cool and Ollie thinks it's really cool. So it's to suit our channel and it's going to go with the 34 really well, I think. And definitely tune in for the next episode, because like I said, hopefully, fingers crossed, if everything goes to plan, we'll be taking it to rego check and we'll have some plates on this thing sooner than later. Appreciate you guys. Don't forget to comment, subscribe and share and like the video. It makes a massive difference to us, guys. Appreciate all the support once again. If you have any comments or ideas or suggestions or views or anything at all, please feel free to comment down below on the video. I'll put a link to anyone we've used in this video. I don't think we've done too much with this one, but the car is pretty much ready to go. Really excited, guys. See you in the next one. Cheers.